Good morning, everybody at Cooper's Crossing School. I am so thrilled to welcome you here this morning and to welcome a very special guest. We have an author from Canada. She lives way over on the other side of Canada in Nova Scotia. Her name is Sheree Fitch, and she's been writing delightful poems and stories and other works for a long, long time. She's been a favorite author in my family for a very long time, and I am so pleased that she's here with us through this technology to share with us today. Sheree, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. All
Let's
the
give
way
her
from
a clap.
Yay. This is so wonderful. So I'm going to start with what I do. I do poetry mostly, and I'm going to start with a poem. If you were me and I were you, for just today or maybe two, then maybe you and maybe me could see the me that you were too. You see, the you I see you try to be never ever speaks to me. See, if you knew the me I am, or I could know the you be, I think we would eventually discover we like broccoli. Yeah, we could form the broccoli bunch, invite each other out to lunch, share our little broccoli trees, cover them with melted cheese. But you pass me by without a smile, as if I were a crocodile, and look the other way in case you see the me that's in my face. If you could wear my sneakers, you might have to plug your nose, and I could wear your shoes, even if they scrunched my toes. Then maybe you and me could see the us we never got to meet, the you and me that might have found more broccoli to eat. If you could wear my sneakers today, you would know that actually I do have my sneakers on today because I just came from the gym a little while ago. And that you would also know that for me to be speaking to you today is a writer's dream. I've been doing it for 33 years, telling stories, writing books, creating poems. And the best part of that has always been when I've been able to go into the classrooms and go into the schools and go into the libraries and see and meet the people who read my books. Because truthfully, and if you don't remember anything else from today, I want you to remember this. How can a book be a book if it doesn't get read? How can a poem be a poem if it doesn't get said and heard? So what I'd like you to know is that the most important person who makes a book is you, the readers. And I am so grateful to teachers and parents and librarians and grandparents who put my books into the hands of readers like you. So every time from now on, from today on, every time you open a book, I want you to pretend that you hear some writer going, yay, you're making my book come to life. Because as a reader, that's what you do. You make the book. It would just be 2 pieces of cardboard and paper. It only becomes a book when you open it up and you read it. So that's the first thing I wanted to do, is to thank you for inviting me to your school and making my books come to life. Now, what I thought I would do, because I know we're pre-K and we're all the way to grade 5, but my thing is that no matter how old you get, the kind of books I do, I think are for any age. As long as the grown-ups don't get too serious and forget how to have fun. Even grown-ups like my books. So I started when I was 7 years old. Let me see how many 7-year-olds there are right now watching me. Where are the 7-year-olds? Can you put your hands up? Oh, there, I see. That's from Mrs. Frank's class or Mr. Frank's class. Yes.
Thanks, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so grade 2, I was in grade 2. And I'm sure, Mr. Hennig, that you've heard this story before, but I'm going to tell it again because it's got to do with the magic of books and why it's so important to be doing what you're doing right now. So when I was 7, I was in a class with a teacher named Mrs. Goodwin. Goodwin. Can you imagine? How could you ever lose if her name is Mrs. Goodwin? How could anything be bad if her name is Mrs. Goodwin? And I loved my teacher. And one day she came into the class and she said, today, class, we're going to write poems. And I'm a grandmother now. So that was a long time ago, before a lot of teachers realized that students could write poems too. She was way ahead of her time. And we were all like, oh, we don't know what to write about. And Mrs. Goodwin was a very good teacher because she said, you know, it doesn't matter what you write about. You could write about the sun or your shoe or your name. It doesn't matter. But what's important is that you try. We've been reading a lot of poetry. I know you can. So I went away and I thought, well, she said I could read about anything really. So I know I'm going to write about my name. So my last name is Fitch, right? So here is the very first poem I ever wrote when I was in grade 2. It goes like this. It's about my last name. I'm an itchy Fitch and I live in a ditch and I'm not very rich and I look like a witch and sometimes I itch. That was it, girls and boys. That was my first tongue twisty poem. But Mrs. Goodwin didn't just go, oh, that's okay. She went, Sheree, it is a poem. It is a kind of poem called a nonsense poem. It is a poem that's a tongue twister. And you know what she did? She put it on the board. And she had my whole class go, I'm an itchy Fitch and I live in a ditch and I'm not very rich and I look like a witch. And, you know, I kind of got teased a little bit, but it was like magic. I saw my words on the board. Well, then we had a school fair and everybody had to put something in the school fair. So people put artwork or they put their beautiful math books or they did a science project. And really, girls and boys, I didn't know what I was going to do because I couldn't feel like I'm left-handed and I was my art. I didn't really, anyway, I didn't feel like I had anything to give for the science, for the class. And so Mrs. Goodwin looked at me and she said, of course you do, Sheree. You have your poetry. You have a poem. And I remember she helped me because my printing was kind of crooked. And I remember Mrs. Goodwin's hand on my hand as she helped me make it as best writing and printing I could do. It was printing. And we put it on a little piece of paper, kind of like, I'm going to show you, kind of like this. This is my granddaughter stuck this on my wall. It says, I love you. But it was like this. And it was put on a piece of felt board and it was in the gymnasium. And so people would come in and they would look at the artwork and the science projects and all that. And it was beautiful. That was all great. And then I would watch, because we had to take turns being by the class display. I would watch as people lifted their eyes, looked at the wall and read my poem. And I could tell they were reading because they kind of sometimes made their lips move like, I'm an itchy Fitch and I live in a ditch and I'm not very rich. But the amazing thing was, girls and boys, when I saw them get to the end of the poem, you know what they did? They smiled. And I went, something I wrote could make somebody happy. And that's what went through my little mind. Something I wrote could make something happy. And I ran to Mrs. Goodwin. It was like, girls and boys, I discovered fire. I felt like I discovered something so amazing. It was like I discovered fire. And I ran to Mrs. Goodwin. I said, Mrs. Goodwin, I know what I'm going to do when I grow up. I'm going to grow up and I'm going to write poems that make people happy. And she said, I think you will. Of course you can. And so all that year, I brought Mrs. Goodwin and I gave her my poems. And I had her for grade 3 too, which was even better. And I kept writing poems for her and she'd give them back to me. So now that was when I was 7 and 8. Now I want you to imagine many, 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 many years later, I'm 30 years old. I've moved away from that little city that I lived in, maybe when I was 10. I'm 30 years old and my very first book of happy poetry is published. It's a book called Toes in My Nose. Now, when you get a book published, the people who publish it, they want you to go to stores and sign your books because of course they want to sell the books. And so I was in a store and I was signing books and I was so shy, girls and boys. I still am. People don't know that, but I was so shy that when I was signing the books and people put them in front of me, I would just say, thank you. And I would sign the book, but I didn't kind of look at them. I would just say, thank you. And I would hand the book back. And all of a sudden I was sitting there and the next book came for me to sign. And somebody put a hand right on the book and said, before you sign this book, I want you to sign my forehead. Well, you know what that meant. I had to actually look at that person and meet them in the eye. And I went, Mrs. Goodwin. It was my grade 2 and 3 teacher who started me writing. And there she was. I hadn't seen her like since I was 10 years old. And I jumped up and I hugged her and she hugged me and everybody in the bookstore was going, what's going on? And she said, Sheree, your father phoned me and told me you were here and told me that you always say that I'm the reason you became a writer. And I said, Mrs. Goodwin, you are. Don't you remember I'm an Itchy Fitch and I live in it? And she said, Sheree, she calmed me down. I was so excited. And she said, I have something to show you. And she opened up her purse and she reached in and she said, I still have 2 poems that you wrote for me that I never threw away. And I said, what? And she did. And she said, and you can't have them because they're mine. I was so excited. And I knew Mrs. Goodwin until she was 100 years old. We became friends again. We got to know each other again. And the last picture I have of her is when she's 100 years old and she's holding There Were Monkeys in My Kitchen, one of my books in her hands. So when people say, how did I become a writer? I tell them this story because it's the truth. I mean, I had a mom and a dad who read to me. This is Family Literacy Week. I'm so lucky that I had a mom and dad that read to me. But truthfully, I tell you that story because I think besides your family, this is your other family. And those teachers who come in every day and say, I think you can, they are, besides your family, the most important people in your lives. So teachers, I want you to know there's people like me who know what you do every day. And what you do is you become the permissionaries to all your students. You give them permission to dream the dream that they don't even know sometimes that they have. So thank you, teachers. So I think that I couldn't make up that story and have it be any better because it's the truth. So I'm here because of your teachers and I'm here because of Mrs. Goodwin. And I'm so happy to be here. So I have a choice now. I can either read a story or you can ask me more questions. Maybe is it time for a story? I think probably, right? Yeah, okay. Now I have a lot of books and it's sometimes hard for me to know which book to pick. I know you're grade 5s and you're great, but like I said, I think these things go with any age. Mr. Hennig, do you have a favorite that you might like me to read today?
Sheree, I have not. I shared Monkeys in My Kitchen with one of the classes. We've been reading some of your poems from Toes in My Nose, but I have deliberately not exposed them to Mabel.
Okay, all right. Well, then what we will do is we will do the poem Mabel Merple. Now, okay, so the book is called Mabel Merple. I wonder if I have it here. I know it in my head, so I might not have a copy right close by, but just give me a second. Just give me a second. I think I do. I'm going to show you I'm going to show you the book. This is the book right here, Mabel Merple. And it's quite a story because the first Mabel Merple poem I did was in my first book, Toes in My Nose. And the first Mabel Merple poem went like this. Mabel Merple's house is purple, so was Mabel's hair. Mabel Merple's cat was purple, purple everywhere. Mabel Merple's bike was purple, so were Mabel's ears. And when Mabel Merple cried, she cried terrible purple tears. Mabel Merple's terrible purple tears. So you can tell how much fun I have with the language and what I call lip slippery adventures. That's what I call tongue twisters. And they're not as easy to write as you might think so. But what happened is that book came out and I went to a school in person and I was reading all the poems. And when the poems were over, we had question and answer. And one little girl, I think, who are the 8-year-olds here? Are there any 8-year-olds? Can I see your hands? There you are. Okay. It was an 8-year-old girl who put up her hand and she said, like somebody asked me, did I have a dog? And somebody asked me other questions. But she said, Sheree, why is Mabel Merple crying? And I said, what? And she said, well, you said she cried terrible purple tears. And I went, well, because tears rhymes with ears. And she did not like that answer. Wasn't a good answer. And actually, it was, when I thought about it, she was so right. She said, I don't think it's very nice of you to leave her in that book crying. Now, she was exactly the kind of reader I would have been when I was a little girl. I went, and all her friends like that were beside her. We were in a big gym. There was about 200 children and they all go, yeah, it's not really very nice of you to leave her in that book crying. And I went, I don't know what to do. And she looked at me. She said, oh, Sheree Fitch, that's easy. You have to take her out of this book, give her a book all of her own. And this time she should be happy. Well, that 8-year-old girl is the reason that I went home. It took me 2 years and I wrote this book. So I'm not going to show you the pictures. You can hopefully, and the book has been published twice. The very first time it was a different artist and now it's been reissued with Sydney Smith, who's just won all kinds of awards for all his artwork. So I love both Maple Myrtles, but this one is the newest one. But I'm going to say it to you because, again, I know it by heart. That's right. Okay, it goes like this. What if there was a purple planet with purple people on it? Would those purple people play whatever purple way they wanted? And what if everything was purple? I mean, a whole purple world. And there was someone just like me. I mean, a purple sort of girl. And if there was a purple girl, how purple would she be? Would she get in purple trouble? She would if she were me. Now that purple girl should have a name. What name could rhyme with purple? I must dream up a proper name. I've got it. Mabel Myrtle. Now that I have named her, I will dream of what she's like. Would Mabel Myrtle ride upon a purple motorbike? I think she might. Now watch my lips. Mabel Myrtle motored merrily through muddy purple puddles. She said, I'm a purple person. I'll roar away my troubles. She wore a purple helmet and purple leather gloves. She's a purple motorbiker whom everybody loves. What is that purple blur? Mabel Myrtle. Yes, it's her. Mabel Myrtle's house was purple. So was Mabel's hair. Mabel Myrtle's dog was purple. A purple poodle named Pierre. Mabel's portico is purple. And so is her bassoon. And she played the purple blues underneath the purple moon. Mabel Myrtle's purple world. Mabel Myrtle had a skateboard and she skittered down the street. She wore a pair of purple sneakers upon her purple feet. She bumbled to a purple store. She slurpled purple juice. People shouted, skateboard scallywag. Mabel Myrtle's on the loose and they skedaddled. Skedaddled is a fun word to say. Now here, the next one. This is the hardest tongue twister in the whole book, okay? It goes like this. And I might make a mistake, but you know what? With tongue twisters, the more mistakes you make, the more fun it is. Okay, so here I go. I'm going to try not to make a mistake. Mabel Myrtle ordered breakfast. She had purple eggs on toast. And when she ordered dinner, she had purple short rib roast. Mabel Myrtle cooked a supper, Myrtle super duper purple stew. It was served with purple ketchup and Mabel's maple syrup too. Mabel Myrtle's purple maple syrup. Okay, I can't hear you, but I want you to try. Can you say, Mabel Myrtle cooked a supper? Myrtle's super duper purple stew. It was served with purple ketchup. And here we go. And Mabel's maple syrup too. And here's the hard one. Mabel Myrtle's purple maple syrup. I hope your lips are happy. Mabel Myrtle skied on purple. She skied on purple snow. She wore a pair of purple goggles and shouted, yeehaw, here I go. She jumped purple mogul. She slid on purple ice. Then she asked a ski instructor for professional advice. And he said, slow down. Can you all say that? Slow down. And take a big breath. Mabel Myrtle's room. I'm going, where does go? She does slow down for a little tiny bit. Mabel Myrtle's room was purple. So was Mabel's bed. She slept with purple pillows beneath her purple head. She wore polka dot pajamas and polka purple socks. And she had a purple teddy bear named Snicker Box. And he snored. Even Mabel Myrtle has to close her eyes. I wonder if she dreams of distant purple skies. Perhaps she dreams of places where she has never been, of a world with many colors that she has never seen. Or perhaps when Mabel Myrtle dreams, she dreams of Gertrude Green. Gertrude Green's house was green, so was Gertrude's hair. Gertrude Green's cat was green, so was her blank, blank, blank. Favorite chair, teddy bear, underwear. It could be any one of those things. I left it blank so that you could go ahead and do the Gertrude Green poem. But do you want to know something? It's so old, this book, and so many people for so many years have asked me, when are you going to do the Gertrude Green poem? That I'm working on it now, and I'm going to send it to, I think I'm going to send it out to a class out west. I'm going to send it to maybe a class in Newfoundland, and I'm going to try to get feedback to see if they like the Gertrude Green that I'm working on. It's really important that you learn to look at work and go, yeah, it's a good idea, or no, maybe you could have done that. You can become my editors. You can give some. So I'm going to send, your teacher and your principal and a few other schools across Canada to get your feedback, if you know what I mean. Because I know you in grade 5 are learning about writing and editing as well, and you can do that. So There we go. That's Mabel Merple. So maybe just to give me a little break, because it is kind of my mouth. It's time for you to ask me some questions. Okay.
Great. Thank you so much, Sheree.
Okay.
Mr. Russ, can we have you unmute and have some of your students ask some of the questions they came up with?
Hi, my name is Owen. What helps inspire you to write?
Such a great question, Owen. I tell you, when I'm a grandmother now, but when my children were little, it was my children who inspired me. So, you know how babies stick their feet in their mouth sometimes? Have you ever seen that, Owen? Well, my little baby was doing that, and his brother went by and said, "You better be careful, or you might stick your toes in your nose." And so that's where I got the idea for that poem. And when they were older, they bounced their basketballs into my kitchen, and they were like, I was like, "You two monkeys, get those basketballs out of this kitchen right this minute." And they're like, "Mom, we're not monkeys." And I said, "Yes, you are. There's monkeys in my kitchen." And that gave me an idea. When I wrote Sleeping Dragons all around, it's because my little boy was afraid of the dark and he had a bad dream. And he said, "Oh, there's sharks all around." But I changed it to dragons and made that book. So everyday things that happen in my life, Owen, everything can inspire you if you keep open to listening. The other thing that inspires me is just the sound of words. I love words. Words are how I make my sentences, and words sometimes are like music to me. So if somebody says to me, "Oh, I drove the Zamboni at the rink," I'm like, "Zamboni? Oh, wow, Zamboni macaroni." And I start to get excited about Z words or the words and the rhythm of it. So when I say Zamboni or ballerina, mud, I hear all different syllables and music, and I love to play. And I say that that's what it is. I love to play with words, and that's what writing really is. And then you make something that you can share with someone. Not all my poems are silly or tongue twisty or happy. Sometimes they're about really serious things too. Okay, so you can get inspiration everywhere, but mostly I got them from my own children.
There's a question from Kate.
Question?
How long does it take to make a book?
These are great questions, by the way. Both of those questions are great. And I wish I could give you, Kate, an answer, but every book is different and every poem is different. Like I have one poem that took me 7 years to write, and I just kept going back to it. It wasn't right. It wasn't right. I might do that one for you after, but I worked on it on and off. But then on one time I sat down and I wrote a chapter book, and it only took 6 months. But on average, for me, when I started out, my poem would take me, the first burst always happened fast. And then it would take time and rewriting, because, your first thing that comes out of your head is, how your teachers might say, "Oh, could you do another draft?" Well, that's really how they're not doing that just to make you do more work. It's that hardly anything comes out of your head onto the page and is perfect the first time. So you kind of have to work at it. And sometimes I work very hard at it. It is hard work, but it's work I love. So it's not something I go, "Oh, I have to write another draft." I'm like, "Oh, how can I make it more beautiful and more perfect this time?" And that's what it is. It's a chance to make it, So it depends, Kate. That's the best thing I can say is it really depends on the poem and the book, and it's always different for me. Other writers are very different from me, and they know how to write a book every year, and they know how to write faster, and faster does not equal smarter or better all the time. Sometimes slow and thinking things through. And so I hope you don't confuse that, because I'm very slow actually as a writer, and I still think I do books that, people enjoy. So, but it takes me time. Okay. So any of you who get frustrated when you're writing, I do too. And you have to give yourself some time. Okay. Anybody else?
My name is Sarah. What is your favorite book or poem is your favorite?
Hi, Sarah. I always like to say the book I'm going to write tomorrow is my favorite book, because I'm always more excited about what I'm going to do than what I've already done. Can you understand that? That's kind of my favorite. It's what I'm going to do. But if I was to pick one book, and it changes sometimes, but the book, If You Could Wear My Sneakers, is a book that I was asked to do by UNICEF Canada. And it's about something very serious. It's about the rights of children. It's about your right to have an education and your right to be loved. And it's about those things. And they wanted me to do like a fun book about something quite serious. And I did. And it's called If You Could Wear My Sneakers. And for me, because it was the book is the one that children really loved. Like the grade fives in Ontario voted it like the best book of the year of nonfiction of poetry, and it won the Silver Birch Award, and it's been turned into a musical. And because I think poetry can be used as a way to talk about really serious things, that book is one I'm really, I guess I would say I'm glad it's in the world. It's called If You Could Wear My Sneakers. And the other one like that is called Everybody's Different on Everybody's Street. And that again was one I was asked to do so that we could talk about how difficult it is sometimes for people to be healthy. So it's about mental health and physical health. It's about how everybody is different, but we're all the same too. Like we cry when we're sad, we laugh when we're happy. So it's about our differences and our samenesses. And I like that book too.
Why do you write so many books?
Oh, that's like the best one. Oh my goodness. What is your name again?
Say it again.
What is your name again?
Ethan?
Hi, Ethan. Hi, Ike. Oh, it's so great. This is good. I can see your faces and everything. I wish I could answer that question, Ethan. I think that everybody has something in life that they can do well. Like I'm not very good at math. And like I told you, I wasn't very good at printing or art. Like I mean, I did the best I could, but I think that I was given this, gift of words, and that this is what I was supposed to do in my life. And it's made me really happy. So I don't know what else I would do, Ethan, if I didn't write books. Is that a good answer? I think it's a really hard question.
We have a couple more from our class here.
Okay. I just got scared because it was my whole face instead of all of you. And I'm like, oh, I just came from the gym. I'd like it. Your face is better than mine. Okay. One more question. Did you say, or a few more?
Two more at least, please.
Okay, good.
My name is Karis. Who is your favorite author now and when you were a kid?
Great questions. When I was a kid, my favorite author was A.A. Milne, the person who wrote Winnie the Pooh. And the reason for that was because the House at Pooh Corner, I still have that book. It's behind me somewhere in the shelf. I read that book. That was the first book I read by myself alone, that an adult didn't read it to me. And I read it in the tree in my grandmother's front yard. And so I can remember reading that book and finding out the world of Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh and Eeyore the donkey. I have donkeys now, and so I remember that. And so A.A. Milne did a lot of poetry in that book too. The more it snows, tiddly palm, the more it goes, tiddly palm. So I think I fell in love with the music and the world of Winnie the Pooh. So that would have been when I was a child. But I liked every stories. And now that's such a great question. It's hard to pick a favorite because I see that different writers offer different things. Like no two snowflakes are alike. I wrote a book called that. No two writers are alike. So right now, the book I am reading right now, well, I have a book here. I'll show you, because yeah, it kind of shows you that as a writer, you always keep learning, and you always keep, you never know all there is to know about writing. So I have a book here that I read on and off. It's called The Flowering of the Soul, and it's a book of prayers and poems. And I just really like them because they make me feel good. So that's one book that I'm reading right now. And I like that's Lucinda Vardy, but there's many authors in the book. And this is a book called How Fiction Works. because I'm writing, well, I think I'm writing a novel right now. And I sometimes get, oh, I don't know if I know what I'm doing. And then I go back to reading somebody who really has thought long and hard about how you put words together to make a novel and fiction. And so I read that. So I still study. So it's hard for me to tell, but I love the poet Mary Oliver. She is an adult poem. It's not a children's, but her work speaks to me. It's a lot about nature, and I live in the country, and I live on a farm, and it's a lot about being alone and how you're never alone as long as you're in the world and you notice all the wonder in the world. So I love her work. Mary Oliver is her name. She's old and she's passed away now, but I go back to her books a lot. Great question.
All right, let's do one more.
I love these questions.
Hi, my name is Nicholas. How do you like to write your books? Paper, computer, or typewriter?
Great question. I wish I could show you. Right now I'm in what I call my little study. And this is where I do my emails and where I type things. And this is kind of like my little business office, but right outside this door, and I don't want to show you because you'll see how messy everything is, but if there's my gym, there's my little gym, but up there is little stairs and a bookshelf, and there's a loft up there, and it's got a mattress on the floor. And I go up those stairs, it's like I go in a different world. And that's where I do my creative work. So I like to kind of forget about all the busy stuff, all the emails I have to answer, or all the things I haven't done. And I put it away and I climb up those stairs and I take a pencil or a pen and paper and I write like I always have. Now, let me explain something to you about that too. Why I use the paper and the pen is because when I do the typewriter, when I do the computer, not a typewriter, but I did start out on a typewriter, this is what I hear when I use the computer. Can you hear that? Mm-hmm. So that sound interferes with the sound that I hear in my head. And remember, I told you I thought that words were like music. So I'm sometimes often writing for the ear. And if I hear that, I can't hear the music of the words as well. So the sound of the pencil on the paper, to me, that's like whispering, and it doesn't interfere with what I'm trying to put together with the sound of words. So I still think the computer makes it fast. And I go back to what I was talking about. I think sometimes you have to slow down in order to really get out on the page what you'd like to. So it's not a race, right? So when I climb up there, sometimes I fall asleep. I'm going to be honest. Sometimes I fall asleep up there, but I always think dreaming is, a writer is a daydreamer too. And so sometimes, it's really challenging work, and it makes you tired. That's why, if you get tired when you're writing, that's usually a time to kind of put the pen down. I always do this with my hands because, even if you're typing, but, when you're holding the pencil, it can be really hard. So writing is physical too. I shrug my shoulders, I take a deep breath, and sometimes I go for a walk, then I come back to my work. And that way my brain's been filled with oxygen and I have a better way to think and dream. So that's a great question.
Mr. Russ, thank you for your students who asked such great questions. Sheree, we have another student in grade 2 from Mrs. Beauparlon's class who wrote a poem inspired by you. And
awesome.
So I'd like to share that with you. Is that okay?
I would love that. That would make my day, make my week. That's awesome.
Beauparlon, would you mind taking off your mute and sharing the poem?
Yes, we don't mind at all.
I'm a witch, but I itch, but I'm still a witch. My husband has the itches and my friend turns switches.
Wow, that's so much like the first poem I ever wrote. Did you see that when I told that story? You used my name and you did the tongue twisty thing. I'm going to tell my husband he got in that poem. That's awesome. That's really, really awesome. And you know what? Pardon?
It also says by Caleb and illustrated by nothing.
Oh, Caleb, can I see the illustrations too? Can you hold it up? Oh, wow.
the other
Here,
way.
we
And
have
that's the front of the
Oh,
book.
there it is. Oh, wow. Oh, wait. Now, I want to take a picture. Can you show that to me again? Can I take a picture of it, Caleb? Who is the
Yeah.
person? Who is the person who did? Who is the artist again?
Like the illustrator,
Yes.
it was nothing. So that's a funny one.
What is it?
It was nothing. It's just me who wrote the book.
Oh, and you did the artwork as well.
Yes, he did.
Oh, but you named it another artist, like you pretended
Yes,
it
he
was.
said that. Yeah, he said the name was nothing. Like it was illustrated by nothing.
Oh, you have an incredible imagination, Caleb, and I think you need to be a writer. I mean, you can do many things when you grow up, but I hope you keep writing, is what I'm saying, because that's awesome. You can see. And how old are you again?
I'm 8.
Right. So, like I said, I started when I was 7 and 8, and that's a good time to start writing. Thank you so much for that. Maybe your principal or Mr. Hennig could send it to me. I would love that.
Mrs.
I would-
Beauparlon, can you take a picture, Mrs. Beauparlon?
I can for sure. And then
And
we
I-
just have one question, if that's okay as well.
Absolutely.
Have you ever thought of making a show using your books?
Oh, okay. Here's the thing. I do have a podcast since the COVID, and since as soon as that happened, I contacted a friend and I thought of all the teachers and I thought of all the children that I wouldn't see. And so we did a podcast and I recorded all my books. So if you go to Mabel Merple's Poppin' Spinning World, I forget the name of it. There is a podcast. So we did a little podcast last year, and all my books I just recorded. But I did have somebody a couple years ago, and this is what I didn't tell you. Mabel Merple has turned into a wonderful thing right across the dirt road where I live. And in the summer times, I have a little bookshop, and it's called Mabel Merple's Bookshop and Dreamery. Because in the pasture, that's a place where we put book nooks, and you can go there and you can read and you can dream, you can get inspired. So I did have somebody come and say, we would really like to make a show about the bookshop and the dreamery. And so that just happened a couple years ago. And I think they're still trying. But you know what, girls and boys, even if that doesn't happen, it's okay, because it's an idea and that's what you do. You try things and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. But I hope it might happen someday. Great question.
Thank you very much. Would you share a little bit more of your poems or your stories?
I would, and I'm just trying to think about, can you tell me how much time I have so I can decide which book? How are we doing for time?
This is Miss Prudhomme. What do you?
Well, we were thinking of about 5 more minutes, but staff know that, we could go over a couple of minutes.
Okay. So I wanted to read 2 books actually, and I'm going to end with a very quiet one, like a very soft one, and that's going to take about 10 minutes, I think. But before that, I wanted to share a poem from the book. Oh, here it is. It's right beside me. You excuse me for a minute while I reach for it. Okay. All right. I have so many here on the. Okay. Where is it? It's a book called, I don't have it right here, but I have the poem that I want to do you in my head. So the book is called If I Had a Million Onions, and it's just a book of different poetry, not even connected poetry. It's like one is funny and one is serious and one. So I'm going to do 2 for you. One is funny and one is serious. Okay. So the funny one goes like this, and this is a game you can play. I thought I'd do this one so that after I leave you today, you could have fun with this. Okay. So it's called Bags and Aiken. Would you like some bags and aching? Would you like it twice as slow? Do you want a cola burial? What kind you want the most? Do you think my tongue is twisted? Do you think my lips are lick? I'll say it all again, then I'll say it queely rick, lickety quick, lickety quick, lickety quick, lickety quick. So that sounds like a different language. It's a language I call lip slippery language. And it is a real kind of poem called a spoonerism, because there was a man named Mr. Spooner, Professor Spooner, who came into his classes and he would go, "Good morning, boys and girls." He kind of had a lip slippery thing that he kept getting his words tangled and twisted. And so people started saying, that's a kind of cool way to play with language. Because I'm a poet and a nonsense poet, it's something I do. So I'm going to see if you can translate. I'll go through it again. Would you like some eggs and bacon? That means, would you like some eggs and bacon? Would you like a twice of sloast? Would you like a slice of toast? Do you want a cola burial? Do you want a bowl of cereal? What kind you want the most? What kind you want the most? Do you think my tongue is twisted? Do you think my tongue is twisted? Do you think my lips are lick? Do you think my lips are thick? I'll say it all again. I'll say it all again. And I'll say it queely Rick. And I'll say it really quick. Would you like some bacon and egg? And would you like a twice as slow? Do you want a cola burial? What kind you want the most? Do you think my tongue is twisted? Do you think my lips are lick? I'll say it all again. And I'll say it queely Rick, lickety quick, lickety quick, lickety quick, lickety quick. So you can imagine how much, even if I'm sad, if I start to play with words, I get pretty happy, because you can't say lickety quick unless you're happy. It makes you happy even if you're not. So that's one kind of thing. And maybe you could take your first and your last name and put it in a lip slippery language. I'm sure your teachers will just love me for this, because it could go on forever, but I hope you have fun with it. It's a fun exercise to play with language. And that's not just silly. It's actually a way that you start to learn about language. I feel really strongly about that. The other poem goes like this. It's called Do Your Best Under the Circumstances. And right now, all of us have to try to do our best under circumstances that we never expected. So it goes like this. There is no land of perfect child. There is no sea of ease. There is no candy apple trail. There's broccoli and peas. There is no suit of armor, child. There's arrows and there's pain. And when your heart is broken, child, stay strong and love again. There is no perfect person, child, not presidents or queens. There's only all us trying, child, to be human beings. And when I wrote that, it was for a friend who was being really hard on herself because she didn't think she was doing good enough, but she was, because she was in a really, really hard situation. And then I realized it was for all the people. It was for teachers trying their best under the circumstances, because there is no such thing as perfect. We are just human beings, and human beings trying to be human means trying to be kind and do our best under the circumstances. So I thought that would be a good poem to do for you, all you students today. And especially I'm thinking about grade fives, because you know, you're the oldest in the school and you set an example, right? For the younger ones. So that I know you're doing your best under the circumstances. I know you all are. And I'm going to end with this one. And then after that, we'll say goodbye. But I wondered, even if I can't hear you, I wonder if I could do a line. Do you think, Mr. Hennig, do you think, and then everybody could repeat after me? Do you think we could try to do that? Okay.
Sure.
And okay. And this book, If I Were the Moon, I wrote for my husband on Valentine's Day. And when I was finished, everybody I loved thought it was for them. Like my mother, my sister, my children, my friends. And so I went, at the end, I went, okay, it's for everybody I love. And today it's for all of you. Okay. So I'll do a line and you repeat after me. If I were the moon, I'd shine down my light right into your bedroom to warm up the night. If I were the ocean, I'd sail you away. Then bring you back home at the end of the day. If I were a tree, I'd let you climb high. You could talk to the squirrels and tickle the sky. If I were a flower, I'd grow just for you. I'd dance in the wind when you wanted me to. If I were a snowflake, I'd tickle your face
I tickle your face.
Then blow away laughing
Blow away laughing
in white open space.
in white open space.
If I were a rainbow,
If I were a rainbow,
I'd let you ride down
I'd let you ride down
my kaleidoscope slide all the way to the ground.
all the way to the ground.
This is my favorite. If I were a mountain, this is for your school, Rocky Mountain Schools. If I were a mountain,
Mountain.
you could reach for the sky, then sing to the angels
And sing to the angels
while clouds drifted by.
while
If I were a song,
I were a song.
I'd hum you to sleep. I'd give you a dream, all your own, just to keep. But I am who I am,
I am who I am.
and that's even better.
And that's even better.
And we'll all be together today
Today
and forever
and forever
Forever
and after.
and after.
and after.
The end.
The end.
There, that's so great. Thank you. I think it worked okay.
It did.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Sheree, thank you so much for coming and spending this time with us. It has been such a wonderful experience, and you are now considered a close and forever friend of Cooper's Crossing School.
Thank you, Cooper's Crossing School. And you're part of the Rocky Mountain Schools, right?
Rocky View Schools, yes.
Rocky View Schools. Okay, you're part of the Rocky View Schools. I understand now. But your school is
Cooper's Crossing.
Cooper's Crossing School. I love that. I'd like to know more about Cooper's Crossing. Maybe you might have to write me real letters and send them in the mail, and that could be a little thing.
Oh, that would be very, very cool.
That would be very nice.
I wonder if we could cheer for Sheree. If you want to unmute, let's give her a round of applause, everyone. Woo! You could do a little cheer. Woo!
I can see you all. That's so great. Thank you. Caleb, I'll go tell my husband that he was in a poem today.
Thank you very much, Sheree. I trust this won't be the last time we connect.
I hope. And remember, a poem a day keeps the bugaboos away.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Thank you so much, everybody. Teachers, be safe and be well and keep going. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Sheree,
Yes.
Debbie Atkinson works at our school as well. She said that you guys went to high school together and have many friends in common. So she says hello.
That's amazing. That's a name from a long time ago, and I can see your face. Isn't that amazing?
Excellent.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you. Bye-bye, dear. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.